Hello everyone, I'm Austin at Base Nursery and Garden Center, and today we're going to be talking a little about tomatoes. Tomatoes can be really fun to grow because they're super vigorous. They usually produce without a problem. Now there can be issues and stuff down the road, but we'll get to that later. So first we're just going to talk about the basics. First off, there's a couple different types of tomatoes. You have your cherries, you have your Roma types or your slicers that make good paste, and then you have your big slicers that we love for our hamburgers or just eating fresh. After you figure out what you like when it comes to cherries or slicers, we're going to go into heirlooms versus hybrids. So, heirlooms are open pollinated plants that have been grown for generations without much genetic differences. So what you had last year is going to generally be the same next year. What you do need to know is that if you put an heirloom crop next to another plant, they could cross-pollinate, and if you harvest the seed next season, you may have different genetics. So if you're going to want to keep your seed every year, you need to keep your heirlooms close to your other heirlooms to keep pollen minimal. Now, with heirlooms comes usually funky shapes of fruits, different colors, and different flavors. Some say that heirlooms have some of the best flavors out there, which I agree with. The plants can also be a little bit less disease resistant because we're not breeding them. So sometimes crop failure happens within heirlooms quicker than it would a hybrid. So now the difference with a hybrid is that it has been hybridized by people. So we take two different plants that we want, traits from, and then we cross them. So say we want a big tomato, but we also want excellent flavor. Two different plants contain those differences. We're going to cross those with pollen, and then we're going to collect that seed for the next season, and we're going to have hopefully a plant that will produce big fruit with excellent flavor. One question I get asked a lot here at the nursery is, are my tomatoes GMO free? What I want everyone to know is that there is no commercially available tomatoes for the consumer. Trust me, they're probably working on it to get GMOs available in tomatoes, but at the moment there is none. So if you ever come to a nursery, a nursery here or anywhere in the country, you will not find a genetically modified tomato that you can buy. So do know that. If you ever read a tag that says non-GMO, that is simply marketing, you cannot find one available for sale. So another thing to consider whenever choosing your tomatoes is how you're going to be growing them. If you're going to be using a container to grow your tomatoes, a lot of times it's better to grow a determinate plant. So there's determinate and there's indeterminate. When I say determinate, what that generally means is you have a smaller bushy style plant that produces a lot of fruit that generally comes in roughly at the same time, usually over a course of about a month. A very common determinate that we think of is usually Roma, which is a paste tomato great for sauces. On the other hand, indeterminate tomatoes generally produce much bigger plants, vines that can reach all the way up to 12, 15 foot if you let them. And they're also going to produce fruit generally from the start of bloom all the way to frost. As long as they're happy and healthy, they'll keep producing all the way to the end. Okay, so whenever you come out to the nursery and you start looking at different tags, there's certain things you ought to read whenever you're looking at them. So first off, we have this tag here, which is a cherry tomato, obviously. It says right on the tag that this one is grown organically, which is nice to see for all of you that like to grow them organic. Obviously, this is a yellow one. Very simple. The next one here is called pineapple. It says it right on the tag that it's an heirloom. It's the very first word you see on there. That's for all you heirloom growers. This one, another good thing to read is the days of maturity. So this one is 85, which is a pretty long, time before harvest. Some of the earliest ones you can ever get is about 60 days. That'll be about as early as you can go. That mainly is with Early Girl is a popular one that's hence the name early. It comes in early, about 55, 60 days. This one here is called Carnival. One thing you'll read on this is a hybrid type. And then one thing that's good to note is this right here that says disease resistance and all these little letters right here. That tells you what it is resistant to. So the V is for verticillium, which is a common disease, fusarium, nematodes, all sorts. Typically, the more letters you're going to get, the more disease resistant it has. You can see here that this is an average crop, so you'll go about 70 days, which is fairly early, but it's about normal. This here is our last one. If you want to start your plants from seed, this is a seed packet. This is Cherokee Purple, one of my favorite heirlooms that we grow. This is an 80-day, so fairly long. These produce very big fruit, and this has really good pictures on it to let you know how they're going to go through their ripening process from a yellow to orange to a deep, dark, almost burgundy red. So also too, when you're looking at tags, especially on seed, it's going to give you a little bit of info you need to read if you've never done this before. So 5 to 10 days until germination. A 1/4 of an inch seed depth is all you need. That's very small. Most people plant seeds way too deep. Generally, the smaller the seed, the less you have to bury it. Tomatoes are no different. You can thin, that's what they're talking to. You can do a group of 3 seeds every 24 to 36 inches. And you can thin. If you have too many that are too close, you can pluck them and get, tomatoes typically want to be spaced about 18 inches to 24 inches apart. And then it also tells you the days of maturity as well. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope you learned a little something about tomatoes today. If you ever need anything, soil products, plants, or expertise, you can come out and chat with us at Bates Nursery. We're on Whites Creek Pike in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks so much.